You sold one car, you took a trade, you took another trade, you did this, you did that. What's the total economic activity? We can justify it even at lower margin. It's just getting enough opportunities.
Hello and welcome to the Walk Around Podcast powered by JM&A Group. I'm one of your hosts, Mark Spoto, joined by my co-host, Jonathan Jordan. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
We're super excited. We're at NADA in New Orleans. We made it.
We made it.
We're here.
We're here.
With us today is Eric Flow of Flow Automotive. Welcome, Eric. Really appreciate you taking time to spend with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks for doing this. This is a lot of fun. And thank you to the JM&A and SET and JM family for, really getting down here as well, because it's great to see how many vendors were able to make it and partners were able to actually get down here. We were a little worried earlier in the week, but
we're seeing good activity so far.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Considering the challenges and the snow and
I expected the convention hall to be a ghost town, and it's not.
It's not.
It's not as busy as normal, sure, but it's actually picked up over the last hour and a half.
which shows the people that want to be here are committed.
That's
and
right.
They're here to learn. So we're here to learn from you, Eric.
Okay.
You, I would describe as a more progressive dealer in our industry. And tell me why you think you've got that label. What is it about the way you approach the business and think about our industry that has you as a progressive thinker?
I will say this. I think I grew I'm 39 years old. People ask me how long I've worked in this business, and I say I've worked in it for 39 years, right? Because it really was a part of my life growing up, always, from meetings to going to stores to, taking faxes off the ground at home. And when my dad was traveling, reading him sales reports over the phone off the fax machine when I was a kid, right? Or my grandfather founded our business. And to me, I think we've kind of had a history as a family of being really progressive. So my grandfather founded our business in the late 50s, and he had worked for a number of manufacturers. He'd been a partner at a Ford store in Elkin, North Carolina. He moved to Winston-Salem, opened a used car lot before we had our first franchise, and he sold every used car fully reconditioned, and they all came with a warranty, which in the late 50s was unheard of.
Right.
Yeah. And that kind of started us on a pathway of like, here's how we're going to do business. And, what being a progressive dealer today means embracing a lot of technology, really thinking about, how to incorporate that technology into processes and make things, we have a sort of tagline, easy, transparent, fun, all of those things. But that sort of idea of being progressive and trying to serve our customers and our employees and our communities in a different way has been there from the beginning. How it expressed itself over time has just grown over time and been enabled to do more stuff as technology has continued to enable.
So when you think about 2025 and in your business, your stores, what has you excited?
Almost everything. 2024 was a fine year. Lots of things went really well. The industry faced some issues. The CDK outage really affected a lot of our business. And not speaking just for Flow, but really the industry for, I would say, the better part of 2 months, maybe even 3. There was this hangover effect. It just demoralized people. Yeah. And this is no fault to CDK. Like the Federal Reserve gets hacked. The FBI gets hacked. I think all of us have come to the realization we're going to do everything we can to prevent this. And it can happen to anybody at some point in time. Yeah. We have stores in Asheville. That community was just obviously devastated, and so we spent a lot of time really trying with the community and with our employees, trying to make sure everybody was okay. And we brought in showers and restrooms, and families were essentially living out of our store for a while. And so, we persevered through some challenges. It wasn't a bad year. It just had non-core business challenges that, I think aren't hopefully repeatable every year. But so 2025, we're really excited. We saw a big change in sort of consumer confidence just colloquially over the last couple of months. Everybody we talk to in our part of the world, which, we're in North Carolina and Virginia, seems to be really optimistic about 2025. They seem to have a sense of clarity around the economy. We're very bullish.
That's awesome.
Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, I think when we talk to our dealers, they are certainly optimistic about the change, but they're also concerned about affordability.
Yeah, that's
Is that something that's
hugely
top of mind?
important. You guys have published great stats on that over time. I think 2019, the average MSRP of a new car in America was $33,000, and the height at some point in time last year was like 48,000. I think it's come down slightly to 46 now, but that's insane, right? I mean, we have a real problem as an industry. At one point in time, for 2 years, there was not a single new car available in America for under 20,000. I think there's one now. There's a 5 or 6 that are under 25. You go to your local power sports store, and a side-by-side's $30,000.
It's crazy.
It's insane. And so I don't know how you fix it. The OEMs have put themselves in a box around residuals. You come out with the exact same car for 15 grand less. You just destroy your customer base, their residuals, their equity. You destroy your lease portfolio. The planning cycle is so long that if they try to introduce new cars, can they get that done in time?
Right.
I don't know. The other issue is, from a safety standpoint and technology, what's been mandated by our government really does make, and I'm not saying that the cars shouldn't be safe, but it does make them more expensive, right? So,
Sure.
a $100,000 luxury vehicle in what we're trying to sell for $25,000 has to have a lot of the same technology on it now, where that wasn't the case 20 years ago, right? I mean, I think everybody wants, like, if you go back to, I was driving a car not that long ago that was it's like a 2001 car. I was moving across our farm, and it's curtain airbags, ABS brakes, like it's pretty safe car still, crumple zones, this, that, like, okay, there's no heads up display, there's no lane monitoring, there's no vibrating seat when you're going to hit something, there's no backup cameras. Yeah. At some point in time, I think we have to ask ourselves, like, how do we figure out how to prioritize the safety that has to be there? But also, we got to get some cars to market that are affordable. I mean, Toyota sells some pretty awesome cars in the rest of the world that I wish we could sell in America, that are a lot more affordable than some of the things we have to sell in America, right? So I don't know how you fix it.
Yeah.
I do think it's highly unlikely that Chinese vehicles are imported
into the market,
America in the next 4 years or maybe 12. And I really think it's apolitical from a party perspective. I mean, if you just look at the electoral map, you lose whatever party decides that they want to import cheap Chinese vehicles. They lose the union vote, and they lose Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I mean, you just lose. So I don't think anybody wants to do it.
No.
So, if you think about affordability, it sounds like it's here to stay, or it's here for a while.
Yep.
What do you do from a process perspective, from a training perspective? How do we address it, as a retail community?
Because of COVID, it's really a double-edged sword too, because you also don't have the used car portfolio. Right. We undersold the market by 10 million cars. That doesn't go away. So if we have, 2 million less 5-year-old cars now, and 5 years, we'll have 2 million less 10-year-old cars, and, it cascades. And then we had no lease activity for a few years, and it's still taking its time to come back. And then we also, at the same time we weren't putting cars into the used car market, we oversold the used car market, right? So we took people out of new cars that would have bought them that weren't available. They went and bought the used cars, and then people bought them at the height of pricing. And so a lot of people are underwater in those used cars. So not only is there's structurally not the same supply, we also had so much demand that we sort of oversold that market. So, go try to find your entry level used car. It's really hard right now. Yeah. So I think you're going to see families holding on to cars. They're not going to trade them. Most dealers will tell you their trade rates have gone down. And when they ask them, do you have a trade? They say no. And it's like, but statistically, people have these trades.
Right.
They're just deciding not to trade them because I think part of the thought is, oh, my son's 14. I have nothing I can get him in 2 years. Like, I need to have something. I need to hang on to this work truck because I can't replace it. Right. So from a sales staff perspective, I think we have to figure out as an industry how to continue. The one thing that's great is the quality of cars that have been made over the last 20 years are really, really good. I think we have to become better at selling older cars. Our sweet spot for used cars is 3 to 9 year old used cars, right? Like everybody else. We have a hard time because everything we sell is reconditioned and with a warranty. So figuring out how to work with our, warranty partners to say, hey, we're going to have to sell 18-year-old cars. And there's some high quality 18-year-old cars. I'm very confident selling a 200,000 mile 18-year-old Toyota. I'll sell that all day long. And I would sell that to my sister or my mother. Like, it's a great car. How do we insure that vehicle? How do we finance that vehicle? How do we work with our partners to finance that? I think we need to be even more transparent in the transaction with people. The tighter that budget is, the clearer we need to be about what they're buying, what its payment structure looks like up front. Because getting people, ethically, I don't want somebody in love with a car that they can't afford. That then they're trying to self-justify to themselves. That's going to really not be the right financial decision for them.
When you think about your inventory and, kind of meeting that challenge, is there anything interesting that you guys are doing from a vehicle acquisition perspective?
Yeah. So we've had a sourcing company that's an internal company to us over time for 30 years that helps supplement trade inventory at our stores. Because even in normal times, it's hard for us to trade for enough cars to sell one-to-one used to new. And we used to be one-to-one. We can't get there right now because we can't buy enough cars at auction in a way we can make money on them. And, we're still buying cars at auction. We're buying them every single day. But the auction liquidity from our perspective is down and prices are up. So, we've worked with different, we always had our sort of margin goal. We break our used car inventory down into different acquisition sources, right? So trade, curb purchase, sourcing, et cetera. We have different margin turn objectives for those because there's a sort of a different risk profile in all of those. The auction car is always the most expensive car because the most people are trying to buy it, and you got to transport it to you. You got to pay auction fees. You got to recondition it. And so, we're still buying cars at auction. It's just hard for us to do it at enough volume that we can make it work, right? And we've changed our, margin objectives to say, okay, what if we went this, less on this, but, we're going to get a trade, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. What's the total economic activity? Sort of, you think of like an old washout sheet, you sold one car, you took a trade, you took another trade, you did this, you did that. What's the total economic activity? We can justify it even at lower margin. It's just getting enough opportunities. Because, the way we buy cars at auction today is similar to how people, the New York Stock Exchange traded things in the 80s on some level, right? Like,
Right.
And yeah, not every, like there's simulcast and the vast majority of people aren't actually there, but we're still, people themselves are placing bid-ask orders, right? What we have been working on, and we're not quite there yet, but we have been working on a way to bid on vehicles programmatically, right? So, you think about how a trading fund works now, unless it's just a sort of discretionary trading fund. If there's some sort of quantitatively driven fund, they have, okay, we're buying and selling all of these things at these prices. And as soon as it hits these prices, we'll buy or we'll sell. And based on our analysis, that's what they want to do. But we think we can do that with used cars at auctions where we sort of say, here's our inventory, current inventory, here's our ideal inventory, what's available at auction, what fills the gaps between current inventory and ideal inventory, what could we pay for those, and can we just go bid on those cars? Because if your take rate is 1%, so like, hypothetically, you're looking at 100 cars to get one. Okay. That's a human watching 100 auctions, monitoring those, even if they put in sort of reserves, they're having to monitor them. You can only, then you got to pay your guy on a sourcing team, get it to the store, transport it, recon it. There's not a lot of play there, and it doesn't scale. If I wanted to buy 300 cars a week, that's a lot of human effort to try to do that. I would like to figure out how to automate it. And so we've been working on that for a while. We're not there yet, but I'm hopeful we'll get there eventually.
That's exciting.
That's really cool.
We do a lot of curb purchases. We try a lot of, like, we've done multiple experiments on social media, and we've used a few different vendors. What I have seen, it's just like equity. You can get a lot of different tools. There's good tools and there's bad tools. If you have a good tool, you can have great success, or you can have terrible success. It all depends if the store really buys into the process and wakes up every day and you have a manager who's like, who am I trading with today? Where am I finding this car? How am I making this work? That's the difference maker.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up buying into the process, because it seems like that is such a crucial part when you look at your dealer group and your dealer body. How do you ensure that you get buy-in to a process? What does that look like at Flow Automotive?
Yeah, for sure. So,
Because I know you have a very particular vision and a philosophy.
very much
So how
so.
do you get adoption around that?
We think of it in two different ways. There's the spirit and the letter. So the spirit of who we are, the spirit of the law sort of thing, has to be in how we do everything, right? If we're going to have a certain ethos of how we approach the world and how we approach our customers, everything we do has to sort of be mission aligned with that, from our marketing to who we partner with, to how we structure a pay plan, to how we run our meetings, right? And so if we're going to say, hey, we're going to treat customers this certain way, we treat our employees a different way, nobody's going to believe we're genuine customer treatment, right? So we have to start and say, okay, we have to do everything sort of in line with who we are from a big picture. And then we have to actually outline this stuff and communicate it frequently. And then we have to actually help our people say, okay, maybe we have this big project we're working on. We've talked about it. We've gotten some buy-in. We've been developing it. Now we're going to actually have to go teach you guys it. We're going to have to do training sessions, and then we're going to have to visit stores. And then we really look for sort of champions in those new, if it's some new project, who can really at a store level create that buy-in and really help drive it. And then you have to have on all things, you have to have the ability to measure it and have some accountability in it. But I will tell you, it's one of the hardest things in our business, I think, just like the hotel business or the restaurant business or anything else, is going, okay, you have a great restaurant. Can you have two great restaurants? If you have a restaurant that's 10 out of 10, can you have two 10 out of 10 restaurants, or do both restaurants become 9 out of 10? If you have a third one, are they both 9 out of 10, or now they all three 8 out of 10? I mean, it's hard. In our business, we have a lot of human processes that are tech enabled,
Right.
tech supported. And we really think the transition that we're trying to do as a company, and that our industry on some level is doing, even if it doesn't realize it, is convert those human-led processes that are tech enabled to tech-led processes that are human-enabled. And it's not an anti-human stance. I think human are the biggest difference makers for us. But we're asking humans every day to do some things where they make a huge difference, some things where they don't, right? Hey, I have to talk to a human to book an oil change and tire rotation on a 3-year-old vehicle with 22,000 miles. I don't think a human needs to do that. Hey, lights come on, third time in a row, can't figure this out. Oh my gosh, oil's in my driveway. You need to talk to a human, right? Hey, can you put a number on a 5-year-old Tacoma with 50,000 miles? I hope a human doesn't have to do that. That's really, with the clean tire, with a clean Carfax, it's not complicated, guys.
Yeah, I think Jonathan, we've seen very similar sentiment from our dealer body. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that we think about a lot and we're talking about a lot is, I think when technology really, you go back 15, 20 years and technology starts to get more and more involved in the transaction, there was this sentiment in the industry that technology was going to replace humans, and it was technology or humans. And I think we've really got to wrap our heads around, and a lot of dealers have, like you, but some haven't yet, that it's technology and humans.
Right. And
it's how do we enable both of those things in the right way? And I love the way you phrased it.
And my message to our people is, what I want to do, like with we call it CRC, Customer Relationship Center, not a BDC. Again, back to that, how do we communicate our brand? Like, it's about our relationships with our customers, not business development.
Yeah, that's interesting because you put the emphasis on the consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
Not on the side of the dealer.
And so, I tell them, listen, I'm not trying to take away your booking people's service. I'm trying to give you more time for the high touch service needs, where you have the ability to make that big difference in their experience, right? That's what I want. That's what I'm trying to do.
I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier when it comes to change management and it comes to implementing new things. And I think it's super timely with NADA. And because there's a lot of cool, shiny things here always. And a lot of times dealers come, they get excited about things. And the conversation we're having with a lot of dealers right now is, there's a lot of great technology. There's a lot of great tools, a lot of great vendors here selling, good solutions. But unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is dealers sign up for them. They get home, they go straight to implementation, and it fails. And so I think you really walk through a really good process to think about, like, if you want to implement a new process, new change, new technology. And so, I'd really emphasize anybody's listening to really listen through that and really think through what the change process looks like in your store and how do you make this
hard.
successful.
Like it's
super hard.
NADA stuff is, if you find something here you're really excited about, you can't let it have the New Year's resolution effect, right? Where it's like, you're real excited for a short amount of time and then it doesn't work because, I would say, listen, I know there's some very successful dealers that don't have a bunch of tools, but boy, they have really committed to training. Their people are really good. They have huge tenure and they may or may not be the most efficient, but they have a great customer experience because they picked something and they really, really focused in on it. Right. So whatever is going to be your big goal for this year or the next quarter that you think you need a piece of technology to really help you, if you think you found a solution for that, figure out how to make it, like how to evangelize it and make it the thing. And you have to explain to everybody why it's important. Hesitant compliance doesn't work in the long run. Like you can get something like, it's like make your bed. Okay. Second you say stop making your bed, they don't make their bed anymore. It's my kids or something, right? Like you're not really helping them understand why it's important and embrace something you're trying to do. You're just making them do it. If that's the case, they're not going to live the reason that's important in front of customers and in other places.
So more than anything when you think about change management, it feels like what you're saying is communication matters and training.
I think communication training really matters. And I will not pretend that we have this perfectly figured out. As a growing organization, it's funny. We do a lot of things these days that aren't like our core business, right? I always say we're not a tech company. We're a car dealer. We want to sell and service cars and help customers with their problems. In order to do that, we need some technology. So we've learned a lot about technology, right? Okay, well, we're not like a change management consulting group. We're just big now. And, with 56 franchises, you want to do something. If you drove around to every store and spent a day there and then the next one, it would take you 56 days and you have to go back to the first one because they'd stop doing it and just do it all over again the whole time, right? So we've had to think through and try and do a bunch of different things. And we've failed at some stuff. Well, we've been very successful at some other ones, but it's not something that I say we have the exact golden ticket on it. Like it's something we think about all the time. Okay, we're going to roll this out. How are we going to get it done?
So, Eric, when you think about 25 again, there's optimism, right? You're positive about the outlook. But I know I've heard you speak before and you talk about some things that go bump in the night, which I love that. So it's, in other words, what's keeping you up? What do you think is going to be an impact on the business that maybe you haven't quite figured out and are still?
So here's the things that I would say I think are up in the air. You touched on one of them earlier, which is affordability.
Right.
Industry. I don't have the solution. If I did, I'd have a very valuable company.
Not that you don't now.
Can JM family figure out how to import some Toyotas that were destined for Africa and the Middle East here and sell them for half the price? Can we? Is that a possibility?
Who knows? Anything's possible, right? We'll keep it in mind.
Thanks. So I think that's one of them. EV realism has come into play over the last 18 months in a way that in my line has always been BEV is a segment. It's a segment. There will be evolution. I think anybody who spent time really digging into the details of battery technology, energy production, storage, distribution, charging, battery manufacturing, cathodes, anodes, all this said, gee, I don't know if we can do that in this timeline, even if the demand was there. The revolution
has come back to reality.
It's just come back to reality. From a market standpoint, I think there's been a lot more clarity in that. Now, from a regulatory standpoint, what happens, right? So you got CARB, Ohio v. EPA. It was before the DC Circuit. They appealed for an injunction to the Supreme Court. They ruled on the stay. They didn't rule on the merits. So, the states don't have to comply now. But in order for the states to comply, they would have to do like 4 or 5 years worth of work. So the worry is, well, if the DC Circuit says, now we've ruled on the merits and you have to comply, they're 5 years behind. So you have that's got to work itself out. You've got CAFE standards. We just got rid of the EV mandate. Is that permanent? Is that going to get challenged? You have West Virginia versus EPA from 3 years ago, where they ruled that carbon dioxide isn't a pollutant. You had the Chevron case last year, which is going to rein in the, the expansiveness of the regulatory state. So somebody's going to come to the EPA and challenge, well, your mandate is this, and you're reaching into automotive, particularly around carbon dioxide, and the Supreme Court's already ruled it's not a pollutant. So are you actually allowed to do that?
Yeah, there's so much noise. So when you cut through the noise, though, like at the basics, what are you hearing from consumers?
Yeah, so EV demand in our part of the world, okay, and it's different. It's very regional, right? And you can see there's regions in America where EV demand is fantastic and continuing to grow. There's areas in America where it seems like it's stalled, right? And I do not think that has anything to do with dealers. I'm happy to sell you any car you want, right? If I think it's a great product and a great brand and I stand behind it and I'm partnered with them, I want to sell you whatever car you want. I don't care if that's a BEV, whether I think they're fantastic or not. And I think they're fantastic. A lot of them really fun to drive. I think in our part of the country, Mid-Atlantic South, there was sort of, we call it intense but shallow demand. The people that really, really wanted it, and they really love it. There just weren't that many of those people in our part of the country. Now, I think what you'll see over time is more people, especially if price parity comes down, there'll be more people that have an ICE car and a BEV or a hybrid, because they go, okay, to me, hybrid is the fantastic solution. Like I've been saying that for years, and I think Toyota's exemplified that, there's very little downside and all the upside. You get the best of both worlds, right? But for people who really want a BEV, I think, hey, you do your whatever commute every single day, and you do take a little trip, it's not that far. That's going to be a great solution for people, and they have another ICE car at home, and that's their longer trip or thing they don't worry about from a range perspective. And I think that's going to be where a lot of people fall out in the BEV world. Now, $7,500 credit is going to go away.
I think that's pretty safe bet.
Huge change.
Given the next 4 years.
It's going to be a huge change in demand. If I was an OEM in America with a stockpile of EVs, I would be trying to sell them
pronto
as quickly as I possibly could. I think population-wise, we talked about this summer a little bit. The average baby boomer reached 65 2 years ago. Gen X is, I think, maybe 11 million people smaller than.
And 2025 is officially start of a new generation.
Yes. And so.
Generation Beta.
Yeah. So we have less people in Gen X where they would currently be in management positions. If you sort of follow the same timeline, you have a lot more millennials than you do Gen X. So how do we accelerate some of those people into management positions, because we don't have enough people in Gen X to do that necessarily, right?
So are you finding a talent problem at your store, sourcing talent? Not that you don't have.
We have focused on talent acquisition for a long time. So we have we call it GMIT, General Manager in Training program, that we hire kids out of college, bring them in to our company. They're in a specific designated sort of pathway. They spend time in service, parts, product delivery specials, sales, F&I, new, used, the end goal of becoming a general manager. Now, not everyone makes it to the point of being a general manager. That's fine. Some people find a department they love, and they say, listen, I liked being an F&I manager. I don't want to be a sales manager. That was better for me. It sort of fits my personality or whatever. Great. The goal is to really get them to be a general manager in under 10 years. So we actively recruit for that. We recruit from local colleges. We recruit from Northwood. I just saw LG, who runs the automotive program in Northwood. Northwood's a fantastic program for that. But yeah, from a talent standpoint, I think every dealer would tell you they have a talent problem, in the sense of we want high quality, high character people that can want to grow with us and are looking for opportunity. And we think about it every single day, because we can't, it's easier to get financial capital than it is human capital on some level.
Real quick, I'm just curious, because having this strategy around building talent, I think is fantastic, and something that not every dealer's thinking about. A lot of them are and have built, similar programs to you. But I'm curious, when you're recruiting right out of college, obviously Northwood, that makes sense. That's what they went to school for. That was the plan. But outside of that, how are you selling automotive?
It's harder.
Because I can't imagine most of these kids at that point went to college and said, I'm going to go sell cars.
Yeah,
Hey,
we were
Mom,
just
thanks
talking.
for paying $200,000. I'm going to sell cars.
Yeah.
Well, we were just talking to someone earlier who I think summed it up. In this business, either you're born into it or you fall into it.
I think that's true. So I'll say this: we have partnered with a lot of different universities. So like Northwood is by far our easiest sell, right? In terms of where to go find people. Also, though, there's a lot of other car dealers up there trying to hire them, right? And some great companies that are up there trying to hire them, and the factories hire from there. So, there's different types of competition there. Now, we're headquartered in North Carolina. North Carolina university system, I think, is the best in America. We have the most affordable school. The university system's governed by the North Carolina Board of Governors. They set incredible objectives around tuition cost increases. They actually have objectives that schools have to meet about first and second year salary post-graduation ROI metrics on what they spent to get that tuition. To get that degree. So we have a very affordable, comparatively, relatively affordable university system. And you have a broad mix there. So you have University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and, you have UNC Charlotte, which is a great school, and NC State, and Greensboro, and Western North Carolina, and UNC Asheville. And so we found schools that the background of some of the kids is maybe a little more aligned and familiar with our business, right?
You're starting to hear a commotion.
We have a marching band.
We have a marching band moving ahead of us.
There you go.
This is live at NADA.
I'm not
It's
sure
happening.
what this is, actually.
Yeah.
It's New Orleans.
It's New Orleans, and they're having fun.
I wish we could turn the camera on what it exactly is we're seeing right now. It's a lot of guys with headbands and satin jackets.
It's like late 80s, early 90s workout gear.
It's like a roller skating ring.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, we could talk to you all day, literally.
This is great.
But we know you got a busy schedule.
Well,
is there anything you want to give as a piece of advice to your fellow dealers when you think about what they should be thinking most, attentively in 2025?
The thing that we've been really focusing on recently, telling the right story around, is making sure people understand what we do, and why it matters, and the difference we make in people's lives. So if you're in this business because you think you sell cars or tires, you have a very poor understanding of the difference we make in people's lives, right?
Yeah.
We help somebody figure out how to afford a car so they can go see their mom in the nursing home, how to pick up kids from school on time, how to get to work on time. We enable transportation in people's lives so they can connect with friends and family and get to work and live their life and get to church and everything else. And so if you orient your team around, this is what we're doing. The goal of we have to sell things to do that. But the goal of all of this is to build relationships with customers so that they can live their lives the way they want to, and we can help them do that. You're going to sell a lot of cars, you're going to sell a lot of tires. That's really the goal. So I think for me, whether you have one store or you have 300 stores, connecting the mission of who you are as a company and why you do it every day, because it's a taxing business. You're at that store a long time. We've done lots of different things around hours and, rotating Saturdays off and different, early in, laid out technician and salespeople things. And I think we're better at that than most people. But at the end of the day, it's an intense business that takes a lot of your time. And so it has to be connected to a greater purpose with you and the company that you have to be aligned with. And so I would say finding that for your company and connecting that with your employees, that should be a big goal for yourself.
I love that message. And what a great sentiment to end on.
Appreciate that.
Eric, have a great week.
Thank you.
A couple of days left at NADA. Thank you so much for spending time and coming to talk to us.
Well, thank you guys. This was a blast.
Thanks,
we really
Eric.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
We really appreciate you joining us today on the walk around, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us. We look forward to seeing you next time on the walk around.